薄いのアホ。
プリズムパワーメイクアップカードレディー。
Welcome to Shojo and Tell, where we discuss shoujo manga and tell who's hot and who's not, talk about themes, and just generally geek out. Today, August 8th, 2018, we'll be shoujo and telling about the second half of the series Banana Fish by Akimi Yoshida. So that's volumes 12 through 19. That's not exactly half. Math, it's hard. I'm your host, Ashley McDonald, and I'm joined once again by the biggest Banana Fish fan around, I'm pretty sure, Marion. Hi, Marion.
Hey.
I'm just assuming that you are the biggest Banana Fish fan. Your Twitter account is basically Banana Fish fan Twitter account. Sometimes there's glass mask in there, but you know.
Yeah, basically. I mean, I'm sure there are other people who will fight me for that title, but yeah.
Oh, please do. Amazing. Okay, so I will give the immediate spoiler warning, considering, this is about the last, 40% of a series, so if you don't want to know what happens in the end, because we're going to go on a big rant about the very end, so if you don't want to hear that, don't listen to this. And just a reminder that Banana Fish is available from Viz Media. They have reprinted it, so you can go get all 19 volumes if that is your jam. You can also watch the anime on Amazon. I don't recommend doing anything on Amazon, but you can do that if that's what you want. And just to be clear about what volumes 12 to 19 means, see, it's gonna be immediately spoiled, so definitely stop listening now. But volumes 12 through 19 are basically like Blanca had come in at the end of volume 11, and Blanca is like a trained, hired assassin. He's supposed to be retired, but he's like, hey, what's up? I'll come out of retirement for you, Golzine. Like, cool. And basically, Dino, the big mafia boss, is like, hey, we need a way to trap Ash so that he will become my adoptive son and take over the world when I'm gone. Take over the syndicate. And somehow that leads to, chase through the sewers of Manhattan and, literal guerrilla warfare in the streets of New York City. Which Ash survives, manages to defeat all the bad guys, and then the end happens. The shocking end. Volume 19 is is just a chapter that is the end, and then you're like, what? And then it's some nice 2 short stories. One before when he met Shorter, and then one far in the future with Eiji and Sing. It was very nice. But what? Okay. I don't want to say all that yet, because we'll get there. It'll happen. Yeah, so I just wanted, before we get to because Marion, you have described this arc as being capitalized a lot. Many times.
Banana Fish is always a lot, but this part is just excessive.
This is a lot,
Even
a lot.
for Banana Fish standards.
I agree. After reading it, I was like, wow, okay, this happened. But do you have a particular, is there a particular favorite scene or favorite aspect of these volumes that you have?
You go first. I have way too many.
I have so many. Actually, I can't even. I know. Before we get into the real hard stuff, just trying to float some easy questions, but apparently they're still hard. For me, I was very touched by 3 scenes in particular, I think. But, we could go on. But 3 scenes. I love when Ash wants the newspaper from Eiji. And Eiji's like, but I'm reading it. And Ash is like, you're so slow because you don't know English that well. Please go watch Sesame Street instead. I was like, this is a fantastic bonding moment that you're having right now. And then I think later in the same volume, or a little bit later, I don't know. Don't quote me. I read a lot of manga. Blanca is talking to Ash, being like, you can't be friends with Eiji. And he's like, don't tell me what to do. And he's like, it's just a rabbit and a lynx can never become friends. And I was like, I'm crying now. Don't say that, Blanca. How dare you? Sort of deal. And then definitely another tearful moment was when Max and the other reporter guy, whose name escapes me, they're like, oh my god, Ash got the negatives to prove that there's this whole underground young boys are being prostituted out and all these things. And Ash proposes, like, hey, instead of having to reveal some identities of some other little boys, you can just use me. I'm supposed to be dead anyway. Ash is like, yeah, so just use me. And then Max is like, no, Ash, we're going to put this far in the past. And he just, like, burns the negatives. And I was like, oh, Max is such a good dad. Those were mine. Do you have any, like, do you have, like, 5 favorite
Well, I definitely agree with your favorite moments, and I will add that scene library when Eiji tells Ash to eat. I don't know if I can say that word here. Is that allowed? But he basically tells Ash to eat his own thing.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Then, and then all those scenes where Eiji teaches Ash Japanese, or that part where Yao-Si, who is the mastermind responsible for capturing Ash, actually tries to shift the blame to Eiji, but Eiji's like, nah, not today. Ash cares about me, and I care about him, and I'm gonna save him. And then even Sing is like, ha, you lost. And that was a good moment, yeah.
I agree. Yeah, so, okay, we're gonna jump into themes, but first we'll do, like, a quick character check-in, like, such as, like, who is Blanca? And what is his deal? And, because Blanca definitely, he is only a second half character, and he definitely has a bit of an about face. Ash manages to convince him to have a change of heart. So Blanca comes in and, you know, is a hardened assassin, I suppose. Very hardened assassin who is just like, I have been trained to kill my whole life, and I don't let personal feelings get in the way of my assignments, and whatever, stuff like that. But then, you know, he gives Ash the whole, like, rabbits can't be friends with lynxes. That's not how animals work or whatever. But then Blanca, like, watches Ash try to take down, you know, all the mafia. And then he has a little bit, he cares about Ash. He's letting his feelings about Ash get in the way of things. So he accepts an assignment from Yao-Si, who definitely wants Ash dead, and Blanca definitely accepts it just to be like, I will protect Ash by becoming your bodyguard. What's up? And then by then he's just employed by Ash for $500, and I'm like, cool. And he you know, sees the light. He's like, oh my gosh, rabbits can be friends with lynxes. I think that's the whole emotional arc of Blanca, right? Like,
Yeah, pretty much.
and oh my god, what is with his shoulders? Like, was this always a problem in the art and I just didn't notice? Like, but looking at his head compared to the rest of his body, I'm like, this is not how bodies work.
Well, it was the 90s, so.
I was like, are you all going like real clamp here?
Have you seen those 90s coats?
I mean, I feel like he's the only one that, like, it stands out so much. I mean, you can notice it in other characters eventually, but, you know, whatever. Cool.
Yeah, but he's supposed to be, like, especially big.
Yeah, because he's Russian. He was part of the KGB or whatever. He's, like, super muscle man or something.
Yeah.
Fine, cool, whatever. It was weird. I saw the tweet of, like, somebody being like, this is all you need to know about Blanca, and it was just this very tiny head and massive body. I'm like, yeah, okay, I get this joke now. It's good. And then I think I can't really remember how many new characters, but the other significant main character is also a bad person who does not have a change of heart, is Colonel Fox. He comes in and is like, hey, I'm supposed to be dead. And I'm just an evil dude. I like fighting wars. Like, I was just supposed to die in some other war, and now I'm helping Dino. But, like, what does he want me to do? Oh, I want this banana fish thing. And, like, I take pleasure in beating the crap out of Ash. It's so fun. And all these things.
Yeah, I mean, Fox is such a mustache rolling villain. Like, he will totally tie damsels to the right wheels. He's just two-dimensional to me. He's literally just evil, and that's it.
Yeah, he has no depth. And his name is Fox, I suppose, to go with Ash being a lynx. Isn't it clever? Plus foxes are like sly and crafty and evil or whatever. Yeah, I get it. But I think there's a lot to say about changes in many of our main characters because they have the emotional turmoil in this arc. Ash in particular, it was honestly distressing to see Blanca come and then Ash just be like, oh my god, I can't beat Blanca. That's madness. Right? Like, and the scene in particular where he's like, yeah, I'll do whatever these people want because they want to kill Eiji and I don't want them to kill Eiji. Like, that's the one thing I don't really want to happen. And Yalci's like, well, okay, Ash, like, kill yourself and then I promise, like, nothing bad will ever happen to Eiji. And Ash just takes a gun and, like, shoots it at his head. And it's empty, and he's like, and his face is just so like, I'm so depressed that there wasn't a bullet in this. And I'm like, oh my god, what is happening?
No, it's so much because they actually toy with him before making him shoot himself, and then the look in his face, it's so empty, like he just wants to get everything over with, and it's so much.
I know, he's like, nothing good awaits me. Please just take me out of my misery. Oh man, you wouldn't even let me do that. This is so bad. And then he does get captured, basically, I guess, and he becomes anorexic, and he definitely should have died a lot of times from many things throughout this arc, but he's a superhero, so he doesn't.
Pretty much, yeah.
And by the end, you, like, think that he's in a better place, but he is not so much. His destiny has been written in the stars of the literary references and such throughout this manga. And for one, I thought he was going to escape, but he did not. He did not in the end. We'll get there.
Yeah.
And then there's Sing. Like, they all go through, like, a depressive, suicidal stage, I guess, is what happens here. Sing, he's like, I know what happened, shorter, kind of, and I want to trust Ash, and his whole gang is like, no, but Ash killed Shorter. Like, we can't align with this dude. And they're like, why aren't you in charge, Sing? Like, what's wrong? And Sing is just like, but I can never beat Ash. Like, whatever Ash experiences towards Blanca, it's kind of like Sing experiences it towards Ash. And then he's like, Ash, let's have a duel, which they don't have. But he's like, I'm not going to kill you. Like, chill. Like, it was so sad to see Sing go through that. I'm like, Sing, you're a pure boy. I just want to give you a hug. And then Yalci, real talk, I don't like this guy. He's just like, he kind of annoys me. I don't know how you feel about him.
Look, when Ash chokes him with his own hair, I actually feel vindicated.
Oh, yeah. That scene where he's like choking him with his own hair.
Like okay, he's kind of like fascinating in some way, I guess. But yeah, he's so annoying.
I'm just kind of like, dude, I get that you're the foil to Ash and like you hate Eiji and Ash because they're like, oh my god, you're trying to do these terrible things to me and I won't give in to it. And like, crappy things definitely happened to Yalci. Like, his backstory is that his brothers, who is now like either killed or turned into banana fish drug slaves, I guess, like nothingness. His brothers, before that happened, had like raped and then killed his mom, which is truly awful. And, you know, because of this awful thing, Yalci has decided to be like, well, everybody else must suffer with me. Like, nobody can find happiness. Not this Ash, not Eiji, like, screw those guys. Like, and, you know, Blanca tries to be a nice, gentle, like, you know, maybe you should, like, I'm sure there's people who love you, Yalci. Like, you should see some happiness in the life. And it's just very annoying that Yalci is never willing to see that. And I'm just like, you just annoy me. I don't know. I can't articulate. It's just like, you're not bad, but you're also just like actively trying to make people sad. And that's no good. And then there's Eiji. And I don't know, would you say that Eiji has like, what is his, I'm not as clear on what his emotional growth is. I think there's a lot of scenes where he is put in the background and you're kind of like, what is Eiji doing right now? Like, where is that guy even? I don't even know.
Eiji's deal is pretty much being Ash support. He's Ash Brock. Eiji's arc is kind of like stop blaming himself for everything, and just embrace that Ash truly cares about him. You know, we actually have a progression where he goes from questioning Ash, like,
That's true. Yeah.
yeah, from questioning Ash to completely believing in him and being there for him whenever it's necessary. And in a world where everyone is sad, we need more ages. That's all I can say.
It's true. Eiji is the shining light that Yalsi very much wants to destroy for everybody. Because I think that Eiji is like certainly Ash's rock, but I think that he also, it's fun to see him interact with Ash's gang as well, like Bones and Kong. They're like, oh my god, this guy can't fight, but like he's cute and endearing, I guess. Like we want to protect him. Boss likes him.
Yeah, I remember that part when Jessica comes in all angry and he's like, "Hi, AJ," and then she starts like being angry at Max. It's just so funny because you really can't get mad at this boy. He's so pure. He's so good.
Yeah, everybody. He has a calming effect on everybody, and that's so nice. I guess if we're including the short story, his progression is like, yeah, I guess I won't include the short story yet. Like, definitely his progression. It's always funny because it's always wrapped up in being Japanese, but it's always like, Eiji, stop being so Japanese. Don't apologize anymore. Like, it's fine. You're cool. Like, it's not your fault. We all love you unconditionally. Like, just accept it. And Eiji, like, his letter to Ash at the end about how Ash is always like, we come from different worlds, and Eiji's like, we don't come from different worlds, we just come from different countries and like look different. That's not the same thing. And I'm like, you pure innocent sweet boy, I love you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Those are all the main characters. There are a lot of characters. We could go on, but like we won't. We're gonna jump into some themes, and hopefully, other characters will like naturally come up maybe. So the first one because we mentioned that we wanted to do this last time, is the role of women in Banana Fish. Because women are few and far between, but they are definitely there and they are used for some things. For male characters and otherwise. I don't know if we should start with Jessica, because she is kind of the mainest one. So we'll start with more minor ones. There's Jennifer in the beginning, was Ash's stepmom. She gets like immediately dead, right? And I'm pretty sure the theme of Banana Fish is that like a lot of women are either dead or like naggy. I think those are the two roles of women, kind of. And Jennifer was both. Jennifer was both like to Ash's dad, being like, don't be mean to Ash, like stop being blah blah blah, and you like don't even see them be nice to each other, and then she dies and he's just like, well, that sucks, like I'm gonna go cover for you now, Ash, because I do love you or whatever. But like and I guess the other prominent dead one is Natasha, who was Blanca's wife, also used as a motivation to be like, I once was so in love and I was in the KGB, and then they like offed my wife and now I'm just bitter and whatever. He's also, a little Yalsi foil, like these things could have made me bitter and I killed a lot of people, but now I see the light sort of deal. And then I guess the two living ones are Nadia and Jessica. And Nadia is Shorter's sister, who is dating Charlie, which is lol. I'll have many things to say about that later, but Charlie is the NYPD inspector, but and she's kind of she's always like, boys don't fight sort of deal, which I wouldn't consider naggy, but it's definitely like a, oh my gosh, I don't do any actual fighting and I don't want you to fight, but she helps by having the restaurant that she runs be sort of a hangout, like secret place that they can all go or whatever. And then there's Jessica's the most involved, certainly. She is a newspaper person like Max, so helps with the stories. She also carries a gun she shoots some people, I think.
Yeah, she kills some people.
Oh, she kills some people. Yeah, Jessica's a badass, that's what I'm saying. Like, but also super naggy, like super snaggy.
I mean, I want to focus on the positive things first. So I think it's pretty cool that Jessica is a single mother with a successful career. She even earns more money than Max, and that's honestly very inspiring, you know. But there's so many problematic things. Like, even if the point here is that even someone as courageous and strong as Jessica can get targeted by horrible people, it's honestly unsettling that the most prominent and active female character gets raped almost instantly after her introduction. And then the thing with Jennifer, besides, I mean, she gets instantly killed, and we actually have to see her half naked body being shot. And that's honestly upsetting to me. I mean, it's not like we don't get a lot of violence here against men. We literally see the guts of some random dude, and then there are millions of panels with dudes getting shot in the head and so on. But practically every prominent character here is a man, so there's a balance. But we barely have any woman here. So seeing so many practically background female characters that are just there to scream for help or being victimized. There's that scene with that secretary who only appears to vividly cut her own neck open, and we don't really get that balance with them because we barely have any female characters.
Yeah, there's certainly not a balance. And even with there's lots of violence committed against men where they die and there's nothing sexual, but like you get like two of the main female characters. It's like, the violence is obviously wrapped up in sexual things, and there's only like three female characters. So like that's bad. That's a bad ratio, you know. And I think it's also it also sucks that like rape stuff. One of the most powerful scenes to me in a way that made me like kind of angry was when Ash and Jessica are talking. Jessica says, you know, oh my gosh, I was raped and it took me like a year to recover from that because rape is horrific and everything. And Ash understands that rape is horrific. Like that's his whole deal. He's like, rape is about power and it's not about sex and all these things. Like he has good tirades about rape, as good tirades about rape as you can have, I guess, because it's bad. But like, you know, in the end, what Ash says to Jessica, he's just like, well, you know, if I needed a year for every time that I got raped, like I would be dead from old age, which is like a powerful point to make, but it's so crummy, and especially in today's environment where it's like what women struggle to speak up against is always this idea that what you suffer is not as bad as what somebody else has suffered. So therefore, like, it doesn't matter, right? Like, I shouldn't bring it up because I should be grateful that I didn't suffer as much as some other person. And that's kind of how Ash's line struck me. And I was like, oh, come on, Ash. Like, that just upset me. Like, a book that deals with this idea would be Not That Bad by Roxane Gay, which is like or it's not by Roxane Gay. She did the intro and like edited a series of essays from people who have been raped and how they have been taught societally that it's like, well, you know, I wasn't murdered as well, so I guess I got off easy, or like I was only sexually harassed, not totally raped, so it's not that bad. And I'm just like, no, Ash is giving in to the slippery slope here.
Yeah, I mean, even if that's not the intention, it's I mean, I see how you can get that and the worst part is that you can even begin to imagine how many times Ash has been abused in his life. It's a lot.
I mean, yeah, that's why it's like that line is simultaneously so powerful, because it's like, wow, that really conveys how many awful things Ash has gone through, but it's also just so belittling to women, because Ash has a lot of moments where he's like, I know exactly what it's like to be a woman, but then whenever he talks to women, he's like pretty rude to them and stuff, you know, like
yeah, pretty
like,
much.
Do you really know how women feel, Ash? Because I feel like you don't, but okay.
I mean, to be fair, Ash is rude to everyone, even to Eiji, so
maybe. And yeah, I definitely think that Ash and Eiji as a pair are supposed to make up this like other, like they are supposed to embody different effeminate characters. Like Ash saying that he, you know, I guess the specific scene was in the gay club where Max was like, oh my god, men are touching me, and Ash is like, yeah, now you know how women feel about like unwanted sexual assault and and harassment and stuff, because this is how it feels. So Ash is definitely like this. He understands it
Yeah.
from a sexual predator perspective, and then Eiji is supposed to be the like docile, like, I make you food, Ash. I made your favorite shrimp and avocado salad for breakfast or whatever.
Eiji is basically a housewife.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Eiji is also often like a damsel in distress. If Ash is a superhero, then Eiji is the girlfriend of the superhero that's always kidnapped to like get back at him and whatever. And something that I want to add about the gay club is that I actually have mixed feelings about that scene because, I mean, the fact that Ash considers that he understands the fear that can come with being a woman and Max feeling uncomfortable at being sexualized, it's definitely worth to consider. But since you're mentioning the gay club, I think it's also worth to mention that the owner here was also in charge of running up little boys and selling them. And after the Marvin thing, the
Yeah.
story doesn't conflate the word gay with pedophilia anymore. But then this happens, and this dude is even married to another man. So there's a lot of very bad correlations here, especially because the context of this talk of understanding these fears of being assault, it's the gay club. So yeah, it's very unfortunate.
Yeah. On the one hand, it's like, oh, it was a nice shock moment where it was like, oh, this guy had a marriage to another man. And I'm like, but this was also a terrible human and you're conflating stereotypes. And I'm like, I hate when everything is both good and bad all at the same time. Why? Because they say like, they're like, yeah, they got like married in California. I'm like, that's such a California thing to say. It's like the dudes in the 90s got married. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's cool. Sure. Yeah. So role of women in Banana Fish in the end, problematic, very problematic. But Jessica's cool. Like, that was the moment where I was like, yes, Eiji is clearly the damsel in distress girlfriend, is when they're in the sewers together and Jessica's like, I just can't leave Max like this, and then runs back, and then Eiji's like, I can't leave Ash like this, and then just keeps running with her, and I'm like, yup. I see the couples right here. This is the clearest
and
indication.
There's another moment that struck me like that. You know, that part when Ash has already bought tickets to send Eiji and Ibe back to Japan before his big fight with Other, but he doesn't actually has the courage to tell Eiji to go back. And they start talking, and he's like, "Do you have a girlfriend?" And it comes out that there's a dead girl, another dead female character, and
Of course.
that Ash may or may not have love, and she was basically his girlfriend, and he's like, she was killed by the people of my own world, and I can have relationships because the people from my own world will not let this happen. And it reminds me of all those stereotypes where you have the superhero and the dead girlfriend and the new love interest, and the hero is like, no, I lost her because I couldn't protect her, and I don't want to lose you, so I'm gonna push you away. So for me, it was basically that.
So many moments that affirm their love is so good. The next thing that I had written down was just that I think this will play more into when we talk about the ending as well, but I found it very curious that, you know, basically the threat of banana fish as a drug is dropped in the second half, but the threat that it presents of like mind control and like corrupting or destroying your soul is like very much more heightened in this, because like the reason that nobody can use the drug on Ash is because if they use it on Ash, then they give this whole explanation of how you like lose so much IQ points, you become like really dumb on the drug and all these things, and they're like, but Ash is a brilliant mind, he has a 200 IQ or whatever. Like, he's a genius, we can't ruin him. So the whole arc is basically everybody trying to control Ash, and if not they can't control him, so they're like, we have to like turn him in some way, we have to like utterly destroy him so that he like follows us and all these things, and they're just unable to do that. They can't use the drug to do that because the drug has serious flaws that they like are not even trying to fix at this point. I don't think, like, maybe Dr. Mannerheim is doing something. I don't know. He's not really that present, but just like, so it's just a whole fight of Ash not even like against this drug, but against this idea of people trying to make him into something that he's not. And he's like, no, I will not accept that. It's a very hard fight. He has many things to lose, like soul, life, Eiji, like so many fronts to fight that on. But yeah.
Yeah, Ash is always fighting to preserve his soul, and whatever happens, he always insists that his mind and his spirit belongs to him, and that's how he fights, even when others try to make him feel powerless. But I think this can go a little overboard. I mean, Banana Fish is always a lot, and sometimes that's very entertaining, and it's kind of part of what makes this so special. But sometimes that's very bad, like how more than dealing with trauma and past abuse, at some point it goes out of its way to actively add immeasurable damage to its leads, especially with Ash. Like, the character of Fox itself is already bad and tiring, but then he rapes Ash, and I can see how, without counting the shorter spin-off, this is the part of the story where Banana Fish clearly makes the point of Prey being about power and wanting to hurt others and step on their dignity and their humanity rather than wanting to get laid. Because unlike the previous Predators, Fox is clearly stated to enjoy killing and causing pain to others, and it's never even insinuated that he has any sexual preference or desire or anything. But I think the problem here is that it happens too late. Even Ash's soul has been abused at this point. It's too much. It's exhausting. Like, I'm tired. Leave him alone.
I know. You're kind of like, Ash should be dead by now. Like, nobody can stand this. Eiji's not enough to sustain one boy on this, like, sort of deal.
We need more Eijis.
Yeah, we need like 5 Eijis to be able to live through this. Yeah, because he becomes anorexic, and they're like abusing him while he's anorexic, and then sometimes he's able to stand up, and other times they're like, no, he needs a wheelchair. He's only had an IV for like the past 10 days. He hasn't eaten anything solid and all these things, and I'm like, this boy is dead. Like, I get what we're trying to do here, but it's a little much. Your suspension of disbelief, you need a lot of it for the 12 through 19 volumes of Banana Fish.
Yeah, even his soul is abused there, because Dino forced him to come out with this plan that even Ash is disguised as himself, but he doesn't have any choice. This plan where they have to, I don't know, I don't even remember what it was. It was something like going to some countries of South America and staging some sort of revolt there and sacrificing so many people. It made sense from a logical point of view, but it was just so horrible.
Yeah, I remember that conversation. I was like, wow, this is so technical. It's like hard to follow Ash's logic and all these things. And I mean, that meeting to me, I guess that was before he started getting really, really sick and all these things. But I did always wonder, I mean, I get why Ash wouldn't want to do this, because he doesn't want to have to do any terrible things to good people ever. But it was always like, why doesn't Ash ever think about being like, yeah, you know what? I'll go along with you. And then when he's older and takes over from Dino, he's just like, cool, now I'm going to burn it all to the ground, suckers.
Because that will require Ash to actually deal with more abuse for longer. And he has had enough. We're all tired.
That's what I'm like, I get it.
Anymore.
But, it could be a thought that crossed his mind once.
But as much as, as smart he is, he's also like a rebellious teen. So, yeah.
That's true. It's the rebellious teenager in him that's like, I can't do what they say. They can't control me. I'll never kill a good person. Only the bad people. Only the bad people. Even if in the end I can't stop them, but just watch me. Just watch me.
No, there's a point where he's like, this is so unfair. Fox wants to kill people, and here I am. I don't even want to kill anyone. Like, doesn't he want to trade places or something? And It's so much. Like I
Yeah,
say, it's funny, but it's so much.
it's so much. He really should just run away to Japan. I mean, I know they would find him there, but just like go see it for a second, like then go back to America. Just hop between them all the time. Make it a little nice chase. Yeah, so as we creep closer to the ending rant, one of the other big themes that I had written down was about finding your family, because there are many levels to this metaphor that I feel this manga explores, with a lot of war books in particular are always about like brotherhood, and since they were traditionally male, military is traditionally male and all those things. Hopefully it changes as more women join the military, but many stories are always about like the camaraderie and the brotherhood that you form while fighting on battlefields and trying to protect each other, and like in this terrible situation it's kind of the one thing that sustains you. And since Banana Fish is like, hey, what's up? We're fighting a literal guerrilla war in the streets of New York City. And gangs have always, in this universe, been likened to some sort of military structure. Where even at some point they're like, the weakness in Ash's plan is that their command structure only relies on Ash. So we just have to like disrupt his command structure and it'll all be good. He definitely has he has a brotherhood with all of his gang members, and it's really endearing to watch how he simultaneously loves them and is like, you're just a bunch of lugheads and I want to protect you, you sweet innocent little boys who society has cast off and all these things. Yeah, and I think that it's it's endearing because it crosses cultures and like races and all these things. And I think the problem with Yaosi, I think it's in direct contrast to Yaosi's problem in that, Yaosi's biological brothers were awful. And he's like, brotherhood has betrayed me and all these things. And that's just because he didn't go out and find a better family. Found families are always better than biological families. That's not always true, but like, it can be.
Yeah.
Find your family. And I think finding your family is also very present with Ash because he has at least 3 father figures. There's his biological dad, who we see in the earlier volumes, and he's a bit of a hard ass, but, his heart is in the right place. He does not maybe express it in the nicest words. And then Dino does legally adopt Ash in these volumes to become his successor to the Mafia. Obviously he's a sucky dad. He sucks the most because he's abusive and evil, and that's no good. And then there's best dad, Max, who Ash chooses to be his dad, sort of as like, it's a thing that they're doing earlier in the volumes as a way to like get a bunch of money and like buy apartments and all these things, because Ash is like too young to buy penthouses and such, so he needs a fake daddy. And I believe he says things like, what's up, daddy-o, and all those silly things because he's great. But we all know that Ash really is like, Max, I wish that you were my dad. And Max is an actual dad. He has a son, Michael, whom he does care about. Doesn't see very much, but does care about that child very much. And I am very endeared to the Max and Ash relationship.
Yeah. And I think it's also pretty interesting how the story emphasizes how the main antagonists all want something out of Ash. Like, Dino is someone who measures human worth by the level of competency they have in things he's interested in. And Ash excels in that sense. And the fact that Dino is the one who gave him the resources to achieve that makes him feel entitled to own and mold Ash however he wants, and he kind of wants Ash to become his Prince of Darkness or whatever.
Yeah.
And then Yaoshi, who has been abused and see all the things he has in common with Ash, resents that only Ash could find genuine love, so he wants Ash to become just as cruel and empty as him. And there's Blanca, who at the beginning, Blanca is not very sane, and at the beginning he even goes against Ash just to see how far Ash can go. And there's Fox, who literally wants to use Ash to dominate the world or whatever. And meanwhile, the people like Max and AG who love Ash unconditionally. I mean, they love Ash unconditionally, and that's one of the reasons AG is so important to Ash. Like, all AG wants is for Ash to stay alive and safe. Like, that's literally all he wants. And then Max, who's willing to go through a lot of hardships for Ash's sake, and even Ash biological dad. I feel like Ash biological dad kind of gave up when things got tough, but Max didn't.
Yeah. I just really love, definitely this unconditional love thing is the thing that Ash is like, oh my god, this is what love is supposed to be, and all these things. He's like, I see the light. And I guess he has a nice little friend relationship like that with Shorter, where they're just like, we're just buddies in the end and all these things. I just find it really powerful that Ash, first, I love that Max does many things to what Max does is put himself in positions where he's like, I've given up everything for you, Ash, basically. Like, he's like, I can't see my family because they're in danger because I'm helping you. I've given up, you told me to give up the materials from the story that we were writing to protect AG, and I gave them to you without even questioning. He burns the negatives of, the secretive pictures of Ash being abused by older men when he was a child, and all those things. And I'm just like, Max is great. And I just love the reverse of like Ash being the child who chooses his dad after having two dads who were like, because his biological dad, I think he just wasn't capable of taking care of Ash. Like, he was like, well, my power is limited and this is how much I can love you. And Ash was like, that's not good enough. And Max, on the other hand, is like, I'll do anything to prevent this from happening and all these things. And I'm like, Max is good.
Yeah, Max is so good.
Was there anything else you wanted to say about family?
I think Ibe is also pretty good dad to AG and to Ash.
Oh, that's true. Throw Ibe in there.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of disappears in the second half, but...
Yeah, he's just like, where's Max? Where's AG? Okay, they're still alive. That's good. Took AG to the hospital, like, watched over him. Ibe is definitely a one who's like, I'm in over my head. I feel like he's like, I'm in over my head, but unlike Ash's biological dad is kind of like, but I'm going to keep trying. Like, I keep coming back and fighting the good fight for y'all. And I think that the next point that I wanted to make does go with family, because I think there's many bonds that are made through food. And I love the use of food in this manga because I feel like it adds a lot of levity to this very extreme situation. It's like, oh, they're not superhuman. They actually do eat sometimes. That's good to see. They take rest. Like, Ash sleeps for 2 hours sometimes. How nice. It's also used for just like humor of AG being like, wake up, eat the food that I made you. Like, come on. But it is also just very good at showing the different cultures and bringing them all together, because Ash and AG's whole food shtick is kind of like, there's one point where they go to the library and Ash is like, yeah, come on, let's go get food. And AG's like, no, not hot dogs again. Anything but hot dogs. Let's go get some real food, like ramen. And Ash is like, oh, you think ramen is good food, but hot dogs, like, bad. Okay, sure, AG. And there's lots of, the natto did come back, and I loved it very much because Ash was like, man, people in Japan cannot like this. And AG is just like, it's true. Like, there's plenty of people in Japan who don't like this and all these things. And there was a good scene where Ash's gang is, like the Chinese Sing's gang, and his Chinese buddies are with Ash's gang, and they're still in contention. That contention really never goes away, but the Chinese gang is like, here, eat some real food for once, y'all. Like, stop with your hamburgers and ketchup and whatever nonsense you normally eat, and have some chow mein. And they're like, this is pretty good and stuff. And I'm like, oh, it's nice to see them be like, oh, we are like sharing in a cross culture through this food. They're literally taking it into their bodies and being like, now we are one gang. we share a love of chow mein and whatever, and a hate of natto. I love that there's just so many good scenes where they're always humoring Eiji too. Like Eiji's like, isn't it good? And they're like, it's all right. And he's like, Arr. And they're like, well, we didn't say it was bad, Eiji. Like, calm down. It was good. And I guess the last point that I wanted to make was that Ash having anorexia is also like plays really well into that, because it's just, you know, he'd been being sustained by Eiji and his weird Japanese food and whatever, and like hanging out with the Chinese gang and like eating at Shorter's restaurant that serves as a front for their gangs and all these things. And then the thing that shows how much he's lost connection with everything that sustains him is a literal anorexia, which is like weird and problematic, but you know, I'm like, all right, thematically I'll accept it.
Yeah, and following that point, it's interesting how when they rescued Ash, there's a scene where Eiji heats up some canned food, and Ash is like, I can't remember when was the last time I had something this good. Or there's a scene that shows how different cultures can clash, but it also shows connection. You know, when Eiji makes that food in the Japanese style, and Ash boys are like, this tastes funny. What is this? And Eiji's like, how dare you? And Sing goes, nah, forget it, Eiji. White people can appreciate real food. Just give them some ketchup and vitamins or whatever. Yeah. And then
I forgot about the vitamin jab. That was nice.
Yeah, and then Ash interrupts to say that he likes the way Eiji prepares the food, and everyone kind of stops because it comes out of nowhere. Ash is not even eating; he's working. But when you look at it as a way to reaffirm connection, it makes sense. And it's not the first time that Ash expresses that he likes Eiji's cooking either. So yeah.
Yeah, it's the thing. Eiji's cooking, the thing that brings all the gangs together. Brings racial harmony to the streets of New York. See, it's good. It's good stuff. Okay, so we have finally reached, like, we've said a lot about this arc in general, but so before we get to the very, very end, it's like, how do we feel about this arc being a lot? Like, were you still into it? Do you think it's as good as the first half? Or like,
I think the last few volumes are just too distressing to be enjoyable. Like, I think the middle part of Banana Fish does a better work balancing that madness and the painful parts and the comedy, but this part is just too much. I mean, after the museum, it just gets so distressing. Like, not even the fights are that interesting anymore because we're all suffering and in pain and we're gonna die. Stop. It's too much. And then that ending. So yeah, it never stops. It never stops.
Yeah, I think it's just like there are too many very large fights. Like, I think the last volumes that we ended on where like Ash had blown up a mansion and all these things, and I was like, I felt like with that there was the proper amount of news response to it. There was like a clear death toll, like they kept saying like 12 people have been killed and all these things, and I was like, okay, I feel like that was shown as something that was very, very extreme and had extreme repercussions. But then this arc is like, okay, and now we're having a shootout in the Natural History Museum in New York, and like nobody comes to stop that. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know about this. Like,
yeah, it gets too excessive. Yeah, and another problem here, I think, is that Banana Fish is full of big fights. So when you are so full of big fights, how do you do your final fight? You know,
right.
And
it has to keep getting more and more ridiculous, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and it doesn't deliver at all. Like, I basically skimmed through those pages because I just can't get engaged. It it doesn't deliver. I don't care about Fox. Nothing here. I mean, I'm not seeing anything new here. And the way Dino and Fox die, they all get off too easily. It's just nah, it doesn't deliver.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely started like skimming the fights. I was like, yes, Ash is doing his weird like shooting to the side pose like he's James Bond or something, and some other guy is getting shot in the head by it, and like now they're dead. And like I get it. Okay, just keep flipping pages here. And yeah, Fox isn't a compelling villain, so it's just kind of like, sure. And I don't. They're like in a building. There's supposed to be helicopters. It's just. I think after the sewer fight, I was like, okay, I buy this, like, they're fighting in the sewers thing. That's stretching my imagination, but, like, fine. I can agree that you're fighting underground and people just, like, die in the sewers. Fine. But everything after that, I was just like, I don't know. I can't. My brain is like, it's too much.
Yeah, I think Banana Fish is longer than it should, and it gets repetitive, and it's that combination of being repetitive and being just so distressing is just not good.
Yeah, definitely. And what I like, the funny thing about the sewer thing is that I kept being like, how are they not getting massive infections though from like swimming in awful water? They're like, yeah, just jump in and swim. Oh, we swallowed some water. It's cool. It's fine. We'll be fine. I'm like, no, that's disgusting. You guys are like have so many diseases right now. It's not even funny. Okay. Yeah, and I assume that, you know, it suffered the thing that it was like, this is a popular manga. It must keep going and just keeps going into repetitive land.
Yeah.
But yes, so now we will get to the thing that everybody really wants us to talk about, and I will put it in a question corner. But I will do these first two as one thing since I feel that they are interrelated. But at Lizzie Visistanti, sorry if I said that wrong, I'm bad at pronouncing things, on Twitter said, I just want to hear Marion's long, detailed rant about the ending. Don't we all? Okay. But first we have a specific question about the ending, which is from @Zawa113CJ on Twitter. It's just like, why do you think that Ash just accepts at the end that he got stabbed and is going to go die? He just like goes back to the library and dies and they're like, he probably could have gotten some help, but didn't. And stepping back a second here, what happens is that in the end, you know, Ash has beaten all of these bad guys. He has beaten, like, he's converted Blanca to his side, basically. He's killed, like, Dino and Colonel Fox, and, like, Yalcy is having, like, a moment, like, whatever. He knows he's no good. He's accepted defeat or whatever. And all the other gangs, like, accept him and all these things, except for Sing's brother, who is still hung up on how Ash killed Shorter and is like, I can't accept that this guy is going to be the leader of downtown and all these things. So I was genuinely shocked after reading volume 18, and it ends with like, yeah, it's all good. Like, Eiji's going back to Japan. He's fine. He survived. He's recovered from his wound. And like, Ash is good. He defeated all these bad guys. I was like, wow, you know, with all these Hemingway and Salinger and just like queer stories, like I just wouldn't expect both of them to survive. And then volume 19 only has one like chapter that is the end. And it is that
he died at the
and
end,
he dies
basically.
at the very end because Sing's brother comes and Ash is reading a letter from Eiji. It's a very touching letter. It has a ticket to go to Japan in it, and Ash is reading it. So of course his guard is down because he only lets his guard down around Eiji or whatever. And then Sing's brother manages to stab Ash, and Ash like also wounds him after that. But like, it's even said that it wasn't like Ash is like, you didn't hit any of my vital organs. But then Ash decides not to seek help. And why is that, Marion? Why? let's ignite the rant now.
Look, I'm sure there is someone out there who can think like in a very poetic explanation or anything, but this just comes down to wanting to kill Ash, and that's it. That's literally it. Like, the intention was there, and it will have happened in one way or another. Ash was gonna die, and that's it. And this is not the entire context, but one way I can really understand this ending is from the perspective of another taking things from media that cause a strong impact on them and then exploring or reproducing these things in their own works. And in that sense, Yoshida has said that the 60s movie Midnight Cowboy was a huge influence on her. And I can honestly see that in Banana Fish. And sometimes this is good, sometimes it's bad, and sometimes it hurts. And yeah, maybe watching that movie can help understanding some things better here.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, because I don't actually know this movie, but like, and I don't know all the history. You know, I'm just a schmuck reading Banana Fish. But for me, it was like, okay. I mean, from the get go, I was like, okay. I mean, this is named after a Salinger story in which a dude kills himself, and it makes frequent references to Hemingway, who's obsessed with like fatalism and all these things. So I was like, well, there's no way it can end up happy. What disappoints me is just that it's so unsatisfying the way that he dies, right? It's like I'm fine with him dying. Like you could see that coming a million miles away from many different reference points throughout the story, but just like why not have made it so that like Fox and him both destroy each other or something? I don't know. It's just like it's so distressing to have it be like, oh, this little stab wound. And I guess she's trying to say something of like Ash chooses to die then, right? Like because he could have gotten help.
Yeah, and like I knew that he was gonna die. I wasn't surprised. I wasn't shocked. I was angry. I literally threw things when I when I reached that part. I'm not even joking. I was so angry. And the more I think about the ending, the more I hate it.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. Look, I'm not saying that Ash will have lived a happily ever after if he had lived. Like, no way. I'm sure it will have been hard and ugly, but at least he will have that freedom to finally live his own life and find a way to live, which is the whole reason why he fought in the first place. And maybe also atone for the things he did because he does feel guilty too. The fact that Lao is the one who kills him gives me this impression of wanting to show this as karma or something. But it's so frustrating because we have plenty of killers here who get off just fine, like Blanca, who, regardless of how he lives, he's literally an assassin and still get all his fancy vacations and whatever. And then there's Sin, who briefly appears in other words that are kind of in the same universe as Banana Fish. So we know that this dude gets married, has children, and becomes a powerful individual and keeps killing a lot of people. So it's hard to take this as karma or as payback or pay for what you have done argument seriously. And it's not like the dead can atone for what the living did, you know. I really hate this message that such a young and abused boy who will have a support network and people who love him and support him if he leave, but instead he finds peace in that. It's like you're not more than the abuse and the trauma, and you're not even worth the struggle because he dies way before even getting that chance. And Eiji's letter is fine. I like the letter, but I hate that that's the thing that's used as the excuse for Ash's death. Like, it doesn't only reaffirm that love does destroy you. It's like there wasn't anyone in the world that loved him more and wanted Ash to live more than Eiji. Literally, no one wanted that more. And there are so many scenes dedicated to just Eiji expressing how much he wants Ash to live, and it wasn't enough to make sure that almost a decade later, Eiji is still broken and grieving. It's not enough to show us and literally tell us that Eiji will always belong to Ash and will never ever be able to forget him. The story actually goes out of its way to make sure he also hates himself and blames himself for what happened. And honestly, this is without even getting into so many other things, like how cheap and underwhelming the actually scene feels after all we've been through.
Yeah.
After every impossible thing this boy has done, this boy could have killed God, and I would have believed it,
Yeah.
And and he survived. And then this is how he dies. Are you kidding me? It's so much. Like, I get that some people like tragedy, and that's the reason that some people like this ending. But I hate it so much, so much. It hurts, and besides of being such a tired tragedy, when you contemplate every unfortunate implication here and all that damage that's done, regardless of whether or not it was intentional, it honestly gets disturbing to me. These boys deserve better.
Yeah, I mean, I am a lover of tragedy, but I still think that this ending is very cheap and underwhelming and like angering as well, because it just comes out of like, yeah, it's like you defeat so many things in this one little thing. And I hate that it's like, oh yeah, Eiji's letter is the thing that's blamed. And it's like, but Ash is always the one who tells Eiji to be like, it's not your fault, Eiji, and all these things. And then for that to be the thing that, keeps Eiji trapped forever and like blaming himself is terrible. And I'm like, I don't want Ash to have done that and all these things. Yeah, I guess I was trying to like think of how I justified it in my mind just to make it, acceptable. But it just isn't really. It's kind of like Ash's, I mean, we're told earlier in the story that Ash has been pronounced dead at some point in the story. So like everybody thinks that he's already dead. And I mean, I guess technically he would have to be brought up on to be persecuted for something. So he'd probably go to jail maybe. Like, I don't know. Everything gets loosey-goosey in the Banana Fish world after volume 14.
Yeah, and here's the thing. You can't really apply logic here because honestly, if this story wanted Ash to live, it will have found a way. I mean, we have seen all sorts of impossible things here. Like, it's pointless to try to apply logic now.
It's true. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I guess mostly what I disagree with in the end is like, yeah, you set it up to be a fatalistic story, just like the execution of it is so poor and for all the reasons that you've already said. So I'm just like, I want my tragedy to be better than this,
That's the problem with getting so invested in characters that are doomed.
Yeah. I just want them to have a good doom, though. Gosh. I don't know. Do we have any other feelings about the ending?
No, it doesn't exist to me.
It doesn't exist. No. Ash is still alive in our minds.
Ash gets the letter and he goes running and the manga suddenly stops. I don't know about your copy, but it stops there. I don't know.
He gets on a plane to Japan and him and Eiji, and he finds Eiji in Tokyo or something. Like,
it's open ending.
Yeah. And then it's done. He ends up in Tokyo, and you're just like, that's it. You don't know if he finds Eiji there. It's all good.
Eiji is not even from Tokyo, though. He's from Izumo or something.
Oh, yeah, he's from Izumo. So he has to go there and then find Eiji. See, it's like, you got to start in Tokyo, though. There's no, like, good international flights from the U.S. to other cities. Anyway, we have another question from Twitter. Well, it's two questions from the same person. And it's from @Zusayu on Twitter. And it's an easy one, I think. Who is your favorite character other than Ash and Eiji?
Easy for you.
Easy for me. Okay, you want me to go first since it's easy for me?
Yeah.
I really like the other gang leaders in Kane and Sing. I think Kane is, like, the way that he speaks is so good. I love everything he says. The way he says, he's so clever and funny, and I'm just like, I love you. I want to be your bro friend. Like, seriously.
Kane is so cool.
Yeah, and then Sing is like, he at least before the side story is very small and scrappy and like uses his street smarts to become leader, but he's also like very empathetic and aware of his shortcomings and all these things. And I'm like, Sing, you're a good dude. And he has some remnant of innocence in that he's like, I don't know the full story of how Shorter has died.
I really like Kane and Small Saint too, but I can't really pick like a favorite character because there's so many characters here that are interesting or engaging in different ways, like Max or Blanca or Jousy. So I can't really pick. I'm sorry.
You can't pick. Obviously, I'm going to pick Max for you. Max is your favorite character because he is a good boy. And this is more a question for you since I've not presently watched any of the anime since I boycott Amazon for all things. But the question is, which scene do you look forward to seeing in the anime the most?
Well, okay, so by the time of this recording, 5 episodes had aired, and there are just way too many scenes that I want to see, so I'm gonna pick the ones that are closer to what's happening now. And I'm looking forward to to seeing Ash burning mansions to the ground and rescuing Eiji and then being idiot boys with him.
Yeah. That'll be good. How far has it gotten through 5 episodes? Let's do a little anime check-in right now. Like, how is the anime doing? Is it good? Is it...
Next episode, they're gonna be in Ash hometown, so it's gonna be a very harsh episode.
Oh, yeah. Jennifer's gonna get dead. Okay. Okay. Good. But generally, is it good? Has it kept up its goodness through 5 episodes?
I think the anime has a different appeal from the manga, but it also captures Banana Fish essence very well. Like, it's a lot. You blink it and you miss it. You have to be there, and the episodes end before you even realize, and you want more. Like, and we all suffer. So yeah, it's definitely the Banana Fish essence.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm basically writing weekly about the anime. I'm writing about every single episode, so I definitely have a lot to say about the anime.
Go find those writings online. You can hear all about the anime. Okay, let's do some lighter things. We didn't do a quiz last time. I do like to do my silly quizzes. A love quiz doesn't really make sense for this episode, but so I've picked a leadership quiz. I guess we can take it as Ash, since he is, he's a good leader.
Yeah, that's basically the thing that draws everyone to Ash, even the other leaders. Like, he's a good leader and he's strong and whatever.
Yeah, he's he's like the most leader of leaders. So this quiz is just, what kind of leader are you? It's from The Guardian. The subhead is, historically, leaders have been mavericks, morons, and at times mystical. Ash is at least 2 of those things. So take our quiz and find out your leadership style. Your leadership style being Ash's leadership style. Okay, so let's go. So the first question, or it's more of a statement, but sure, it is Monday morning. You start the day with 1. A bioactive, multi-organic, gluten-free digest fest. That's a lot of words. It had a lot of dashes. 2. Black coffee and a vitamin pill. Who needs food in 2014, now 2018? That's right, it's even more relevant. 3. Greasy cutlery and a sense of guilt. 4. Porridge, the rancil of breakfast. It does what it says on the packaging. What does... Ash is like a snobby food eater, though, right? Like, he's like, I eat shrimp and avocado salad or whatever. Yeah, so, like...
He's always making him breakfast, so he's definitely eating well.
Yeah, so I actually think it has to be the bioactive, multi-organic, gluten-free thing that is the best fit for that. It's definitely not greasy food or whatever, porridge. And he's not a vitamin man. I'm going with bioactive, multi-organic, for lack of a better choice. Okay, second statement question thing. You're stuck in a meeting more tedious than tinnitus. Tinnitus? It's one of those. Do you take the initiative and reframe the meeting objectives? 2. Zone out and put your giant brain into stasis. 3. Use the time to mentally tick off your to-do list. 4. Openly draw an organogram? I don't even know what that is. which sacks the person droning on.
I will definitely take the initiative.
Yeah, obviously. Come on. Okay. 3. In a nutshell, you are 1. First among equals. 2. You don't fit in a nutshell, but you do eat nuts. 3. A swan. Legs a go-go. Calm on top.
What?
It's like the swan is what you see on top. It's like an iceberg, you know. The swan is calm on top, but working really hard on the bottom, I guess. And then 4, a crystal, parentheses, multifaceted.
Ash will definitely be compared to a crystal.
Yeah, because he's not first among equals. Nobody's equal to Ash. Ash is a badass. Like, he does fit in. Everybody loves him. He is pretty. I don't know. I could be convinced of Swan, but we're going with Crystal. An admin oversight means you are giving a speech in 30 seconds, so you are thrilled. You live for moments like this. 2. Open with a quirky antidote in a blatant bid to buy time. Others, things. It's so hard when they're statements. 3. Can barely speak. You feel like you've eaten a sack of cotton wool balls. It's definitely not that one. 4. Elegantly hand off to an equally ill-prepared colleague. Okay, it's not that one either. I think it has to be the first one. Are thrilled. You live for moments like this.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Ash needs to buy any time. He's just like, I'm always on point. Like, I'm Ash. Question 5. Statement 5 is, it's a stationary apocalypse, so you, 1. Implement an immediate paper-free policy and pretend it's intentional. 2. Go to Ryman's on your lunch break. 3. Steal your intern's Moleskine notepad. 4. Know who's hoarding the Post-its and publicly shame them.
That
Right.
one.
He's crabby. I get it. Okay. Good choice. Because I was like, it's kind of hard. None of them really stick out to me. So we're going with that one. 6. You've had a bad day, so you cope by 1. Listening to your favorite power ballads. 2. Hitting the bottle on a school night. 3. Practicing mindfulness. 4. Cladding yourself in lycra and being, quote, active.
You know, one of my greatest sadness here is that Banana Fish, it's set in the 80s, but no one ever listens to 80s music. Like, come on.
Oh, that's
Come
true.
on.
That's a tragedy. Oh, man. I think it has to be the first one, though.
Yeah.
Listening to favorite power ballads. Like, I think I want Ash to now be listening to 80s music. In my fan fiction, Ash listens to 80s music and rocks out and gains power from it. Oh boy. Okay, 7. The office is on fire, so you save 1. Your colleagues. 2. Your dog. Yeah, right. Do we need to read the other ones? We're gonna, just so you know what the other bad options are. 2 is your dog. Yes, you bring it to work. 3, nothing. There's no need. You have implemented an effective fire safety policy. 4, your engraved fountain pen. No, it's just your colleagues. We're just clicking that one.
This is Banana Fish, so there's definitely gonna be a fire.
Yeah, there's definitely, Ash has actually already done this, and it was your colleagues. Like, let's be true. Let's be true here. 8 is, if you had a spare ticket to a black tie event, you'd invite, why isn't Eiji an answer? But 1, your current online dating conquest. 2, an annoying yet important client. 3, no one. You like to fly solo, network, and leave after the starter. 4, your hardest working member of staff as a thank you. Well, I think your current online dating conquest is the closest that comes to Eiji, so I'm gonna click that. Yeah. It's not perfect, but I think it's the closest. 9. An office juror overdid it at the Christmas party, so you, 1, pretend it never happened and treat them with other professionalism. 2, save it up as ammunition for their leaving. 3, bring it up at every given opportunity. 4, give them an official warning. I think it's save it up as ammunition.
Yeah, definitely.
Drop it at a very critical moment. And Ash is like, I got you.
Yeah, Ash has definitely done that.
Yeah, right? It's just blackmail. It's good. It's fine. 10. In a word, people think you are 1. Terrifying. 2. Friendly. Right? 3. Charming. 4. Radical. Radical is also a good option, though.
Yeah. I don't know. I think people are always compare him to literally Satan, so.
It's true. I mean, the short story with Shorter is all about how Shorter is like, he looks pretty, but also his eyes, they're so scary. You know? So terrifying. Okay. Submit answers. So I guess the description of Ash as a leader is you believe in people power and prefer to observe, plot, and then conquer. Yes, I think that's Ash. I think that is correct.
We did well.
I think that is exactly what he did by uniting all the gangs and then being like, we will run around New York City and they think they will have us, but they never will. Like, divide and conquer them. So we did it. Okay, now it's the most important segment, shipping corner. I feel like this whole podcast has just been building up to shipping corner, but of course we're gonna save the big ships for last. There aren't actually that many ships. We're gonna save the big one for last. We all know who we're talking about. But so, how do you feel about Charlie having dated Shorter's sister Nadia?
Well, I do think it's nice. I mean, he seems like a supportive dude. He seems like a nice boy, but something that bothers me is that Nadia is never her own person. Like, she's always Shorter's sister, and then she's Charlie's lover. And then there's this conversation with Max and Even when they're like, yeah, Charlie boy needs someone who can take care of him. And it's like, does Charlie needs a mother or a wife? He can have both. So,
yeah, right? He needs one of them, though. I think I'm like, yeah, seeing them, I'm like, it's cool. They seem to be happy and they make each other happy and they like each other. And I'm like, oh, that's nice. I guess I was just taken aback by it when it initially happened. I was like, I did not expect this. I thought, aren't they
it comes out of nowhere.
Different in age? Like, I'm so confused. Aren't they, isn't there like a conflict of interest in this relationship? I don't understand. But like, they seem cool, like, generally. I do agree about Nadia. I definitely just described her as Shorter's sister. Like, that's her whole thing, right? Like, she's not given her own personhood, which is a tragedy, but spin-off manga that is Nadia as the main character. Nadia and Jessica go on adventures. And, I would read that.
Yeah, honestly, same.
So speaking of Jessica, then we have Max and Jessica. Do we like them as a couple?
I think they definitely need to talk like a lot, but at some point I kind of started rooting for them. I don't know.
I don't know. They're always just so mean to each other, right? Like, they have some moments where they're apart and they're like, I missed you so much. But then it immediately goes back into them being like, you piss me off so much, right?
Yeah, like, I don't know if they will get along well after everything is done. So, yeah, I don't know.
I know. Yeah, it's kind of like, did this whole fighting a guerrilla warfare in the streets of New York City bring them closer together or tear them farther apart? It seemed to have actually brought them closer together. Brotherhood right there, except love. Like,
yeah, but that's not gonna solve all their problems, so yeah.
I know, they have a lot of problems, but like, Michael turned out okay, I guess. You know? I guess that worked out for them in the end. I hope that they became like a powerful like journalist couple or something, you know? They were like peak journalists of their time and they became partners on stories and they shared bylines and everything. I'm like, that would be fun.
Yeah, that would be cool.
And then, all right, you know what? I'm gonna put this one that's in a side story first because it was dropped at the very end, but I don't want to talk about the big ship until the very end. So we are presented with Akira and Sing. Let's talk about this side story for a hot second, actually.
Oh, no.
I know. Okay, wait, actually, let's... So I had written in notes I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna finish this the side stories on the bus, and Marion just wrote back notes to me being like, don't read Garden of Light in a public place, you'll just like sob uncontrollably. And I was like, it's okay, I've sobbed uncontrollably in public before, it's fine. And then like so Garden of Light takes place in the future, where it's supposed to be like 10 years later. I don't know. Some yeah, like 8 or...
It's like 8 or 9.
Yeah. Because Eiji is 28 or something like that, and he was 19 at the beginning of this manga. Eiji is now a fancy photographer man. He has come back to New York. At first, he didn't know that Ash died at the end of the manga, but, he comes back to New York, finds out Ash dies, stays there. Sing is also dealing with repercussions of his brother having killed Ash.
Eiji basically surrounds himself by Ash. He goes to New York. Even his profession, he takes photography, but his subjects are all somehow connected to Ash. So, yeah, he's successful and all, but it's a lot.
Yes, he's successful, financially famous, but his soul is crushed. He's dealing with some stuff. So him and Sing are still like, they're buddies. They hang out a lot. Sing he's like a student, but he's also a trader. He seems to be doing good. He's become very tall. He's very handsome. He's a cool dude. He hangs out with Eiji a lot. They're both like, he talks to a computer. He talks to Ash's computer, who he just refers to as Ash. It's a little weird. It's fine. Sing. He's got some stuff to work out.
They're all grieving.
Yeah, they're all grieving in their own way. Eiji hides all the pictures of Ash that he ever took, and Sing talks to Ash's computer. It's good. It's fine. They're good.
Yeah, and Eiji avoids a lot of places. Like, he can't even see the public library.
He can't go to the
library. I want to say that this is all so much because it's so much.
It's so much. And the framing of this story is told through Eiji's niece, Akira, coming to visit New York and meeting Sing and Eiji and seeing their day-to-day life and learning about Ash and all these things. But at the end, it is suggested that Akira maybe has a thing for Sing, and he's like, come back 10 years later or whatever, and we can be a thing. Which is funny because honestly, I was like, is this manga implying to me that Sing and Eiji are a thing now? Because I definitely got that vibe.
Yeah, I never got that vibe because I could see what they were doing with Akira, so I never got that vibe. But the Sing and Eiji's relationship, it's definitely very close, very intense, and Sing cares a lot about Eiji, and he feels guilty and he wants to take care of him and all that stuff. Then the Akira thing happens. She's like 13, but it's implied that she will be the the love interest of Sing, who's a grown-up man, and they actually get married after that when she's 18.
Really?
I think. Yeah, she's around 18. She's barely legal, and they get married. And yeah, that happens.
Oh no. Okay. I guess that's... okay, so yeah, it's that she's 13 and he's 23, and they joke that he's like, well, in however many years, 7 years or whatever, I'll be 30 and you'll be 20, and then it's fine. I'm like, yeah, I guess, but to talk about it now isn't. Like, yeah, when you're both adults, that 10-year age gap gets less and less important as you age. But when one of you is 13, it's a little...
It matters.
Yeah, it matters. Calm down.
It's very uncountable. Like, it would have been cute if this has been framed like a brother-sister relationship. And maybe with time, when they were actually both adults, something happened. But that's not how it goes.
Yeah. And even though I did get a little bit Eiji Sing vibes for a second there, I was like, well, I know this isn't real because, like, Eiji's one true love is Ash, obviously. And I don't think that this manga would pull them, like, bonding over the grief of Ash to be, like, a love thing. But yes, Ash and Eiji, how OTP forever.
Yeah, pretty much. for me, the relationship between Eiji and Ash, it's the heart of Banana Fish. It's not the main plot. It's maybe not the most important part, but it's definitely the beating heart of this story.
Yeah, and I mean, that's especially interesting considering in the second half, I swear that there are seen like whole plot points where Eiji is not really that present because he's like not with Ash, right? Like, so, or even if he is, it's kind of just like he doesn't have a task to do and everybody else is doing stuff. But I mean, there can't be Banana Fish without like, how would Ash know to rebel against the terribleness if he hadn't met Eiji? And how would Eiji know? I guess Eiji is like, I see the power of unconditional love, what it can do and stuff.
And I think this is a lot more subtle, but I think that what Ash does in Eiji, it's bring out his strength and his courage, because before Eiji comes to the States, he was a pole vaulter, and he was injured and has to leave that, and he was extremely depressed. And then when Eiji first starts to get involved in Ash War, we get all those lines where everyone is like surprised of the things Eiji does. Like, he's normally not like that. He's very shy. He's very timid. So Ash definitely brings out of Eiji things that he wouldn't normally have.
Yeah, Eiji, definitely just gains some sort of backbone and like learns both like his worth and his strength. You know, he learns to shoot a gun and all these things. He's like, I don't want to use this, and he's not good at it, but he can do it. And I think that is one of the most important lessons humans generally can learn about themselves, is like, yeah, things are painful and hard, and you won't probably be the best at them and all these things, but like, you can do them and you will be stronger for the attempt.
Yeah, and there's also those things you say in Garden of Light about having seen the darkness and the light and loving them equally, which is actually a reference of how much he loves Ash, but it also can be seen as his way of learning the harshness in the world, but still remaining pure and innocent at heart, and in his heart, and that kind of stuff.
I know. It's so. I really wish in Garden of Light we had gotten more. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I wish that we had gotten more of Eiji also hanging out with more than just Sing. Like, I wish that like Bones and Kong were there too, and all these things, just to show how they all grew up so nicely and everything.
Yeah, but it was more important to be in pain and distressed, so that didn't happen.
Gosh darn it. I know. It's so annoying that it's like, on one hand, it's like Ash choosing to die. Ash didn't kill himself, but he chose to die, basically. And in some ways, I think that's supposed to be Ash being like, I took control of my life. Like, I did it. I did everything I set out to do, and I feel that I can only bring pain. I don't want to drag Eiji into pain and all these things. And it's just so annoying that cyclic cycle of suffering that Ash seemed to have fought his way out of, in the end, it's like, oh, and now Eiji and Sing are sad and suffering, like almost a decade later.
I have so many issues with this, choosing death being like the one thing he chooses, like,
Yeah.
And then and then there's the fact that he will live forever in Eiji's heart or whatever, but it will always be a bittersweet memory, because on one hand, yeah, Eiji loves him and wants to remember him, but on the other hand, there's the pain of Ash Ash not being there, so it's just a way to make Eiji being forever in pain, and that's so much.
I know, and all he has is like, Ash will live on in photos and a computer that Sing has to maintain forever.
That's so much.
From 1984 or whatever, it's too much. But in general, Ash and Eiji are really cute, and I love their banter, and I think they are a healthy relationship in a manga that is marred by very, very unhealthy relationships generally.
Yeah, I mean, they both push each other to be better, and I like how they can act like they're a married couple in 1 second and then like idiot boys their age at the next. It's just so good.
Yes, they encompass the whole spectrum of human feelings that are possible when you love each other. It's true. It's very good. Oh, so Ash and Eiji, OTP forever. They deserved better.
Yeah, so much better.
Ash needed to stop reading Hemingway, then he wouldn't have done this. That's my conclusion.
I blame Blanca. It's all his fault.
It's all Blanca's
He
fault.
got Ash into Hemingway.
I know. Gosh darn it. Okay, well, aside from that, do you have any other final thoughts?
I don't know. I mean, it's so overwhelming. It's a lot. It's crazy. Banana Fish is not afraid of any god, and sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. It's that it's stress in manga, but it also can be like extremely entertaining and funny. Like I lost count of how many times I laugh out loud. Like, Ash, that's not possible. You're not human. It's so entertaining. It's so good, and the relationship between Ash and Eiji, it's one of my favorite relationships in fiction. So I really love Banana Fish, but Banana Fish also has things that I really hate, so I'm kind of like forever trapped in hell. Like
The thing you love the most is also the thing that drives you insane the most. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think Banana Fish, I can definitely see why it's something special. It's so compelling, and you know, even the parts where you're like, yeah, I'm skimming the gun shooting, you know, it's like, you still need to know what happens after that, like, you know, you need to know. But anyway, I hope that this has been a good episode for everybody. So thanks again for listening to Shojo and Tell. Comments, questions, constructive criticism, concerns, need to make fun of how much I can't say all those C's, or, you know, want to go on your own long rant about that ending, that how much it upset you. Maybe you like it. You know, somebody who likes it, come defend it to me. Sure. Do it by emailing us at shoujoandtell@gmail.com, or leave a comment on shoujoandtell.com/bananafish2. You could also leave it on one. It doesn't really matter to me. You can write like a tweet thread at us. We're at Shojo and Tell on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Marion, where can people find you on the internet and all the writing that you have done so far about the anime?
I have a blog on takushiguro.com where I very eloquently cry about Banana Fish. And I'm on Twitter. My handle is eccentric Marion.
Yeah, so it's just you doing cry emojis with a banana and a blue fish, right? That's the just emoji story every day. I think it's an accurate representation. Anyway, are you excited every time you see a new episode from us in your podcast feeds or on the YouTubes or wherever? If so, please consider leaving us a rating in iTunes or Stitcher or Google Play or wherever podcasts are found and stars can be clicked. This will help the podcast reach more hearts, or at least ears. Thanks again for listening. Y'all gonna laugh at me because next time we'll be doing Magic Knight Rayearth by Clamp. I know I have said this literally at least 3 times, so you don't believe me, but for real, it's gonna happen this time. That's what the next episode is gonna be. Stay tuned so that you can see whether I actually did it or not. Until then, bye.